is Izzy. This is Rolling Virtual Cards coming at you with another Commander deck build. This time we're continuing the month of Atraxa with neg1 counters. Again, let's go over Atraxa for a quick second. This is Atraxa Praetor's Voice, a green, a white, a blue, and a black for a 4/4 legendary creature, Angel Horror. With flying, vigilance, death as a lifelink at the beginning of your instep proliferate. This card's great. You're proliferating its instep, so it works with any counters, and its plethora of keywords just really make it strong. That accidental life gain, the protection with vigilance, being able to evade stuff with flying, trading off with anything with death touch, just makes this card so good. Let us go into the card by card here in a second. What I do want to say about it is the reason you'd want to run a neg1 counter deck is really if you just like controlling the field. If you want to see your opponent's cards just not stick there. No creatures for them. A great way to just control the field, mid-range, slowly win with Atraxa hitting people. There's also surprisingly a lot of combos with neg1 counters, and we'll get into those when we get to that section. Without further ado, let's get the card by card. First off, we got +1/+1 counters. There's two of them. Sword of Truth and Justice, it's here because of the proliferation, and the protection from white and blue is good with Atraxa. Making it a 6/6 isn't bad either. But being able to proliferate every time it deals combat damage is great. That's just more removal of your opponent's creatures in this deck. And Yahini, it's +1/+1 counter, but it's here for the sack outlet. It's just good to have a sack outlet in this deck, and being able to being able to get bigger when your creatures die is useful. Neg1 counters. Here is the blood life of the entire deck. Okay, all these neg1 counters. Black Sun Zenith puts a neg1 counter on each creature, and then you shuffle it back into the deck. So you can use this to just put neg1 counter, just one on each creature, and then you can have Atraxa start proliferating your opponent's ones. Atraxa becomes like a 3/3, but that's okay because you're going to wipe out their creatures. Yours are going to stay around. Channel Initiate is going to be coming in with 3 neg1 counters, and you can tap it to remove a counter and add a blue, or add a colorless. Sorry, add any mana, which is great because you can keep the neg1 counters on it using Atraxa. Contagion Clasp is here because it puts a neg1 counter on any target on the field when it's battlefield, but it can also proliferate. Clambering Ashes, at the beginning we upkeep, destroy target creature with a neg1 counter on it. That's just great removal. So you're not going to see a lot in the interaction section because neg1 counters are all interacting with stuff. Fevered Convulsion allows you to pay 2 and 2 black to put a neg1 counter on target creature. Great, just mana sink removal. Hapatra, Vizier of Poisons, known as one of the best neg1 counters out there, commanders out there. It's 2 for a 2/2, and when it deals combat damage to a player, you put a neg1 counter on target creature. And then when one or more neg1 counters would be put on a creature, you get a 1/1 snake with death touch. Blowfly Infestation's cool because when a creature is put into the graveyard from play, if it had a neg1 counter on it, put a neg1 counter on a creature. So as long as your opponent keeps dying, your stuff keeps dying, you just get more over there. Grim Affliction is going to put a neg1 counter on a target creature and then proliferate. Again, killing a lot of creatures your opponents control. Necroskate, it has Wither, so it deals damage in the form of neg1 counters. And when a creature an opponent controls with a neg1 counter on it dies, you can return that card to the battlefield under your own control. Very strong way. It's there's a reason it's an $11 card. Nest of Scarabs, you get a black insect when one or more neg1 counters are put on a creature. Obelisk Spider, when it deals combat damage to a creature, put a neg1 counter on that creature. And whenever you put one or more neg1 counters on a creature, each opponent loses life and you gain life. Sinking Failing allows you to enchant a creature, and enchant creature doesn't untap during its controller's untap step. But enchant creature has pay 1, put a neg1 counter on it, untap this creature. Spitting Dilophosaurus is 2 and a black for a 3/2, and when it enters the battlefield attacks, you put a neg1 countner on target creature. And then creatures your opponents control with neg1 counters on them can't block, giving you a great way to get in. Harbinger of Night. During your upkeep, you put a -1, -1 counter on each creature you control. Heat Mender. At the beginning of your upkeep, you remove a -1, -1 counter from each creature you control, which is super useful. And it has Persist. Sadistic Obsession. Enchant creature. Enchant creature has tap. Or pay a black and tap it to put a -1, -1 counter on target creature. Soul Snuffers comes into play, and you put a -1, -1 counter on each creature. Yawgmoth Transposition allows you to... Has protection from humans. You can pay a life and sacrifice a creature, put a -1, -1 counter on target creature, draw a card. And you can pay 2 black and discard a card to proliferate. It's also in counters. No, it's not. It should be in counters. Flourishing Defenses allows is enchantment that whenever a -1, -1 counter is placed on a creature, you may put a 1/1 elf creature token onto the battlefield. Skeleton Ship, you can put a -1, -1 counter on target creature by tapping it. Volrath, the Shape Stealer, puts a -1, -1 counter on one target creature at the beginning of combat, and then you can pay 1 generic and have it turn into a copy of target creature with a counter on it, except it's a 7/5 and has this ability. So, not bad. Still cannot become another legendary, the Wolf Die. Cornifex Demon enters the battlefield with 2 -1, -1 counters. You can pay a black to remove one and put a 1/1 count, a -1, -1 counter on each of the creature. Contagion Agent puts a -1, -1 counter on each creature target player controls. And you can pay 4 to tap it to proliferate twice. Liliana's Influence comes in. You can put a -1, -1 counter on each creature. If you don't control, and then you can search your library for a Liliana. Well, for this Death Wielding, this specific Liliana that we're running. Midnight Banshee has Wither, and then at the beginning of your upkeep, you can put a -1, -1 counter on each non-black creature. Pyrrhic Revival. Each player returns each creature card in his or her graveyard to play with a -1, -1 counter on it, which is great because you get a bunch, and then you can just remove a lot of their creatures by proliferating with Atraxa. Grim Poppet comes in with 3 -1, -1 counters, and you can remove one to put one on another creature. And Liliana, Death's Wielder, you can +2 it to put a -1, -1 counter on target creature. You can -3 to destroy a creature with a -1, -1 counter, and you can -10 it. Return all creature cards from your graveyard to the battlefield, which is just a great thing to do, and you can get to that really fast since Atraxa does stuff. This one's just here as abilities because it can technically steal abilities, so you can use more or double trigger them. Eternal Witness and Solemn are both ETBs. One's recursion, the other grabs you a land and also ramping you, and then when it dies, you draw a card. Magecraft. Again, I use Magecraft as anything that triggers off of cast. So Flux Channel will proliferate whenever you cast a non-creature spell, and Inexorable Tide will proliferate whenever you cast a spell. Both great ways to just keep your opponents down. Ramp. Wayfarer's Bauble grabs you a land, a basic land. Arcane Signet taps for any color. Channel Initiate taps for any color after you remove a green color, or after you remove a -1, -1 counter. Farseek grabs you a Plains Island or Swamp in this deck. Fellow Storin taps for any color your opponent can produce. Rampant Growth grabs you any basic. Same with Sakura by sacking it. Talisman taps for a blue or a black. Chromatic Lantern taps for any color, and then also makes it so your lands tap for any color. Commander Sphere taps for any color, and you can sack it to draw a card. Cultivate and Kodama's Reach both grab you a basic land onto the field and into your hand. Tapped Staff of Completion. You can pay 1 to destroy a permanent you control. You can pay 2 and tap it to add a mana of any color. You can tap it and pay 3 to proliferate. You can tap it and pay 4 to draw a card. And you can pay 5 to untap it. Smothering Tithe is great. It's just going to stack your opponent. They have to pay 2 whenever they draw a card. Otherwise, you get a treasure. Solemn grabs you a land. And Revel in Riches gives you a treasure whenever a creature your opponent controls dies. And at the beginning of your upkeep, you have 10 or more treasures. You win the game, which is a great win con. And since you're like controlling the field. Recursion, we went over them. Lands, there's no special lands here. It's all just pretty basic, not expensive lands. We have 1 Aristocrat and Zulu per Cutthroat, mainly because it works with some of the combos, and 1 Charge Counter card because it's a combo thing. So we have 11 cards in the combo thing. we'll go over some of these combos. So the first combo is Channel Initiate with Sneaking Feeling and I believe it's, what's the one? Obelisk Spider. So the way this works is simple. When all three are on the field and Seeking Feeling is equipped to Channel Initiate, the way this works is the bottom part of an Obelisk Spider, whenever you put a -1/- counter on a creature, each opponent loses life and you gain life. Channel Initiate can tap to add a color and remove a 1/1 counter from it. Seeking Feeling, you can pay a generic to put a -1/- counter on this creature and untap it. So when Seeking Feeling is on Channel Initiate, as long as it doesn't have Summoning Sickness, you can tap Channel, remove a counter from it, add any color, untap it, or use that color to untap with Seeking Feeling and put another counter on it, and then keep doing that over and over. And then every time you do that, you're going to gain life, and each opponent's going to lose life, and you're going to gain life. So that just goes boom, infinite, and they're all -1/- counter. Hapatra goes infinite with Blowfly Infestation, and then also Yawgmoth and which one was it? Give me a second. Let me double check here. Right. And then it also goes infinite with Yawgmoth and Zulaport. So let's go over the simple one. The bottom part here, whenever you put a -1/- counter on a creature, create a snake. Blowfly says, whenever creatures put into the graveyard from play, put a -1/- counter on it. Put a -1/- with a -1/- counter on it. Put a -1/- counter on target creature. So as long as you put a -1/- counter on a creature, and that creature dies, and you make the snake, the way this works is all you have to do is put a -1/- counter on that snake. That snake will die. This will see it, and this will see it. So you'll make another snake. So you make the snake because the creature died, or because you put a -1/- counter on it. You make the snake, it dies. Then Blowfly Infestation says, "Oh, a creature with a -1/- counter on it died. Let's put it on another one." And then you put it on the snake, and you keep going, boom, 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 causing it to have infinite ETBs, winning off like something like the Zulaport Cutthroat. It's the same thing with just replacing like Blowfly with Yawgmoth. Because the way it works is you put a 1/1 counter on up to one target creature and you draw a card. So the way this works is, let me see if I remember right. So, yeah, whenever you put a -1/- counter on a creature, make a snake. So you can just pay 1 to sacrifice the snake and put a -1/- counter on a creature, and you make the snake. So if you have, I think the way this works is you have 2 snakes, right? So if you have 2 snakes, you sack one of the snakes, put a -1/- counter on the second snake, making another snake. Drawing a card? Let me just see how it works. I've got it pulled up here. All permanents on the battlefield. You control at least 1 additional creature. Your life total is at least 2. An opponent controls a creature. Okay. Activate Yawgmoth by paying a life and sacrificing the creature, targeting any creature an opponent kills. The sacrificed creature dies. Triggers Zulaport Cutthroat, causing each opponent to lose life and you gain a life. Resolve the Yawgmoth ability, putting a -1/- counter on a creature an opponent controls and causing you to draw a card. Hapatra's second ability triggers making a snake. Repeat. You may also repeat this loop whenever a creature enters the battlefield under an opponent controls. Oh, okay. The way this works is you're just mowing down your opponent's creatures. That's the point, okay? So, if you have a snake out on the field or any creature, you sack it to trigger Yawgmoth, you target a creature an opponent controls, you go you -1/- counter on it, and you draw a card. And then Hapatra says snake, and then you do this again, and then you do this again, and then you do this again, and then you drain them. Without and the reason you need Zulaport is so that you don't die from the life loss. Otherwise, it's not an infinite combo. It's a finite. This also works replacing Hapatra with Florist Dance. Place on a creature, you make a snake. And it works with nest. Whenever put a -1/-1 counter, create this insect. So any one of these can replace it. You just need Yawgmoth, Zulaport, and then one of these three. And you can technically replace Zulaport with any other creatures, any other aristocrat. But Zulaport also just kills them, as long as, because you're draining them. So as long as you're getting the life, that works. So you can add more of those if you want more redundancy. The next one, Blowfly Infestation, also doesn't just work with Atraxa. It also works with Nest and Floristance. The last one, which is a really weird one, is Magistrate Scepter. I just thought it was funny. So you can pay 4 to put a charge counter on it, but you can also tap it and remove 3 charge counter, take an extra turn. The way this works is simple. So all you need is Magistrate, Contagion Engine, and your commander. Contagion Engine, and a charge counter on it. So it has a charge counter. Then you trigger this effect, and you proliferate twice. And now it's at 3 charge counters, right? And then, at your end step, you trigger Atraxa. Boom. And it has 4. And then you just untap everything. Or then you tap it, remove the 3 counters. It's still at 1. Take an extra turn. Do Contagion Management to get it from 1 to 3. Atraxa, and you just take infinite turns. All you need here is those 3 cards on the field, and then 4 mana off of Containment Engine. And again, you still need the 4 on it, so it takes a while, but that's all the combos I found in this deck. There's probably more if you want to look them up. It's kind of fun that we have a lot of accidental combos with cards that just work. Here's a bunch of cards that like counters. This one proliferates, so it likes counters. This one proliferates when it does combat damage. Same thing with Thumbing Bird. This is just a white Thumbing Bird. Evolution Sage proliferates whenever land enters the battlefield. Flux Channel proliferates whenever you cast a non-creature. Grim Affiliate proliferates when you cast it. Staff can proliferate for 3 life and tapping it. Sword proliferates when it deals combat damage. When the creature it's equipped to, it deals combat damage. Tekuthal doubles proliferations. Yawgmoth proliferates by discarding card. And Inexorable Tide proliferates when you cast a spell. And Contagion Management proliferates whenever you proliferate twice for 4 and tapping it. Draw cards. You don't have a lot of draw cards in this deck, and it's kind of a problematic thing, but it's also you're running this kind of control deck, so you really don't need that many. Command Sphere can sack it to draw. Staff can draw for 4 life. Solemn draws when it sacks or when it dies, and Yawgmoth draws when you sack. 2 evasion cards that we went over. We went over the extra turn spell. Interaction: 2 Path and Swords exile creature. Arcane Denial as a counter. Same with counter spell. But this one allows you to draw a card at the next turn's upkeep, and your opponent draws 2. The opponent who controls the card. Heroic Intervention gives all your creatures hexproof and indestructible. Negate counters a non-creature spell. Beast and Generous Gift pops up any permanent and gives them a 3/3 beast. Teferi's Protection is getting more and more expensive, which is like, I wish there was like different cheaper versions, but they're all like $40, which is just not fun. I'm not gonna lie. So I started removing this from the future decks you're gonna see because it was expensive. And again, just proxy it. It's a good card. I don't get upset when people play it. This one is shouldn't be. Oh yeah, because it enters the battlefield with a -1/-, and you can remove 1 to pop. This does not have the negative. Oh, yeah, there we go. That's better. And you can remove the -1/-1 counter to destroy target artifact or enchantment, which is pretty good. Protection. Any of the counter spells or protections, Lightning Greaves and Swift Boots, both protect your commander for the most part and gives it haste. Those are the 2 stack outlets you have. That's the 1 stacks piece. These ones are the ones that create tokens, and that's the tutor. So that's the deck. Again, like if you like a deck that has a bunch of combos in it that are just convoluted, but you're also controlling your field and just preventing your opponent from winning the game, this is the deck for you. It's super fun, simple, and I think you'll love it. Take a look. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and stay tuned for more Atraxa decks this month, along with a few other videos. Peace.